What do you do if your band completely misses a song section or gets off click and makes beat 3, beat 1? In this tutorial, I want to show you how to solve that without having to press stop. So we have all been there before. You press play, maybe a singer misses a intro, or worse yet, someone starts to count wrong with the click and say makes beat 3 of Ableton their beat 1. What do you do in those situations? Well, most of us do this. We start our click, let's say we're starting on our intro, something happens, we get off the click, we just press stop. That's kind of our default. We stop things. If you're bold or dare I say crazy, you may select your verse with your locator, wait till you're on the verse and then try to trigger it again. I don't typically suggest that because you're likely not going to be in time, or there's going to be that moment where it's just going to kind of hiccup till you get back in time. It's not the end of the world, but it's a solution. It's a possibility, right? So let's talk about a couple things we can do to get our band back on click, back on the right section. And then I want to wrap up with my favorite solution that will actually help make it to where as your band is playing, Ableton can turn around and follow your band. So if you get off of the click and you make Ableton's beat 3 your beat 1, we can teach Ableton to follow us. So it's pretty cool. So stick around. Okay, so let's talk about the first and perhaps maybe the easiest solution to get your band back on track. Let's say we're in the intro, suddenly our band gets off track. Instead of stopping, we want to solo our click, okay? So we hear the accent going, we hear our click going. Let's say we're about to get to the verse, maybe we're a measure late. So we're just gonna wait till the next downbeat of 1, and then I'm gonna trigger my verse. We're back on track, and I'm going to unsolo my click, okay? So I think as step 1, soloing your click is a really helpful thing. It would also be beneficial if you have a, say, MIDI controller. You could do Command M and map your click here to solo your click, which is super helpful. If not, you just have your keyboard. You could tap the S on your the solo button here, and let's make this C, okay? So I'm going to assign this to C so that if I want to solo my click, if that happens again, I'll press C to solo my click, I'll re-trigger the intro to get us back on, and then press C to unsolo. Now, an even better solution is to create what I call a one-button fade out, okay? So this is how this would work. So let's have this play. Okay, I want to fade my click out, so I'm going to press F. Over the span of 2 measures, my tracks are going to fade out. I just have my click. This is going to give me time to get us right back on the right section. Let's say, okay, here's our verse. So I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to press F again, the same button, to slowly fade back in over the span of 2 measures. Right, that's a really, really great solution to help our band get back on track. Now, in order to figure out how to do that though, you've got to become a From Studio to Stage subscriber or purchase my advanced tracks template. So you can head to fromstudiotostage.com/subscribe. To become a subscriber, check out our Tracks 301 course and learn how to do that from scratch. Now that's a really, really cool thing, a great thing to do, great thing to figure out how to do. But there's an even better solution and a step I want to go further, which is I want to talk about how do we solve this to where if we've actually turned the beat around in the sense of Ableton is going 1, 2, 3, 4, but we're making 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We make our beat 1 be Ableton's beat 3 or something like that. How do we solve it to where instead of having to stop tracks, we can keep Ableton Live going exactly the way it is and actually have Ableton shift to follow us? I'm going to show you how to do that in just a moment, but I want to encourage you to consider subscribing. If you like running tracks on stage, if you like using Ableton Live on stage, every single day at 10 a.m. Central, I post a brand new tutorial showing you how to do fun tips and tricks like this, but even a lot more. Again, it's every single day, 10 a.m. Central, completely free. All you have to do is hit subscribe and enable the bell icon. Okay, so let's get back to it. So here's our scenario. I've been trying to show people and demo this for many, many years, and it's a hard thing to demo, but if you've been in that situation, you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's say Ableton, let's solo Ableton's click just for a second so you can listen. I don't want to show you Ableton, I just want you to listen, okay? So the 1, you hear the accent, 1. Now what happens if someone gets panicked and suddenly instead of that person saying 1, 2, there's our accent, that person starts to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And you can hear the problem. The problem is, as I'm counting 1, my downbeat is actually off of Ableton's downbeat. That's a problem because if I'm running tracks, that means the song sections aren't going to start at the same time. That means if I go to repeat, everything is going to be off. So what do we do in that situation? Let me show you step by step how to solve that problem. Okay, so we've got our tracks going. Let's say, again, we're in that situation where 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so step 1, if your band turns the beat around, let's call it that, to where you are making the downbeat something other than Ableton's downbeat of 1, the very first step is you need to solo your click. Use everything we talked about before. You could use my fancy 1-button fade out to just get to click. That's fine. You could just literally do what I did the very first time, which is just click solo here. You could do Command K and map this like I did here to C or to a MIDI controller, whatever you want to do, but your very first step is to solo click. This is a reason why I think having an accented click is super important, because we're going to hear that there's a mismatch there, and then we're going to be able to adjust this. I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't like using an accented click in case we get off the tracks and we turn the beat around like we're talking about here. And I'm going, well, if you're running and using tracks, it's super important that everything's locked in. So that's why I think having an accented click is important. Okay, so step 1 is we are going to, again, like I said, solo our click. Step 2, let me show you what we're going to do, then we'll talk about why next, okay? There's ways to do this with your MIDI controller, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to do Command 8, okay? If you're on a PC, it'll be Control 8. But what that does is that changes our global quantization from what it was, which is 1 bar, which means anytime we perform an action, we're going to wait a bar for that action to occur. And by doing Command 8, it's going to change to quarter note, okay? Then what I want to do, and this is really hard to demo, so I'm going to tell you what I'm doing and then I'll actually do it, is I want to wait till I am on the band's beat 4. So for example, if I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to wait till the band's count would be 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. And when I get to that beat 4, I'm going to trigger the song section I want to go to. So for example, let's talk through it, then I'll show you. Let's say we're in the intro, we mess up the intro. So I solo my click. I hit Command 8 to go to quarter note. We're about to get into our verse, but again, the band has swapped it to where they're off of what Ableton is. So instead of the band being 1, 2, 3, 4 with Ableton, their 1 is Ableton's beat 3. You'll see what I'm saying in just a second. Again, this is why I said, tried to show this for many years in conferences, and it's really difficult to demo in person. But the band 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do Command 8. I'm going to wait till my beat 4, when I'm going to be counting out loud, which is different from Ableton's beat 4, and I'm going to trigger that song section that I'm on, which is going to turn Ableton's click around to where it's going to restart and it's going to time the accent perfectly in time, and then I'm going to bring my tracks back. Okay, so let's try this step by step as if it's in real time. So I'm going to reset my Ableton session here. I've unsoloed my click. Just to keep it simple, I'm just going to press C to solo my click, okay? I'm gonna set us back to 1 bar here, and let's try this in real time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play Ableton. This may be a little confusing. I'm gonna play Ableton, but I'm gonna count, and I'm gonna mess up our count here in our count off section. You'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go. Listen for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay? I don't know if you caught it. I don't know if you realized what I did there, but basically in that time that I took the click out, I turned Ableton, so Ableton's beat was going 1, 2, 3, 4. My beat was going 1, 2, 3, 4. They were basically misplaced, right? So I was counting 1 on Ableton's beat 3. And what I did is, without stopping Ableton Live, I just said, hey, Ableton, psh, back over here, buddy. And I had Ableton jump back on track with me. Now, the final step of this process, once I'm done, is I'm going to hit Command 9 to get back to my global quantization back to 1 bar. And then Ableton's going to function exactly like it did beforehand. So this is a really cool utility. Again, I know this is a difficult tutorial. If you don't follow, don't worry, it's not for you. But if you've been in this situation before and you follow, then you know it's how incredibly helpful this can be. So again, as a recap, let's recap one more time before we sign off here. If you're ever in that scenario, our order of operations is we want to solo our click, Command 8 to change our quantization to quarter note. Then we want to wait till our beat 4, the beat 4 that the band is playing, not Ableton's beat 4. And we want to trigger that song section so Ableton restarts on the next downbeat of 1. It'll resync up our downbeats, right? And then we do Command N to get it back to 1 bar, and then we unsolo our click. So if you follow those steps, it doesn't matter what happened, Ableton will always follow. And I found this super helpful, particularly in working with vocalists in intros of sections where they typically their brain gets clouded, they struggle to figure out where that is. It doesn't matter. You tell them just focus on the performance, stay focused on the music. And as the playback tech, as the person running tracks, I'm gonna have your back. And we're gonna make sure that everything always works. Again, as a reminder, if you wanna learn how to use Ableton in a way that's efficient, flexible, and stable, make sure you hit subscribe, enable the bell icon, post a brand new tutorial every single day at 10 a.m. Central, and I hope to see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.